All right, can you hear me okay? All right, good. I need that and where are you? There you go, we're good. Okay. Yeah, you're in a little early tonight. Usually it's, I think, another couple hours before you normally show up. I think. So tonight I get to start with Invasion, which I decide just because. Let's see what time or let's see when Invasion came out. Invasion came out in 2000. This is June, so give it about 3 months, and Invasion will be 25 years old. I'm like, damn. Because at that point, they were all, I think they were all releasing, I want to say September. You know what? Now I am curious. Hmm. I think I did that right. Yes. So release date was in October. That means the pre-release would have been in September because I believe at that point pre-releases were a couple weeks before. Okay, you don't tell me anything there. Blah, 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 blah. I mean that's doable. That is definitely doable. Yeah, I don't see anything here that tells me what I'm looking for. Blah, blah, blah. Like, are you talking different color or different color scheme? Okay, so different color scheme. Because they both share black. That's cute. Although, I wonder if. Oh. What are you called? Yeah, they both share. Right, they both share red. Vivi is red blue. This is blue, or this is black red. So yeah, it'll be possible to build it that way. It just depends on how you want to build it. I might suggest, and I understand this probably sounds like I'm tooting my own horn, but I might suggest taking a look at my mono red commons only deck. Um, because like I only say this in terms of getting ideas, get the ideas flowing, so on and so forth. I am by no means saying build this deck or even build with these cards. More a matter of take a look at what's here. Maybe there's ideas there that you can use. And that's this one. This is the spell trigger deck. Are you kidding me? Restore. What are you doing? Thank you. Now, I have changed the actual physical build of this deck a little bit. Kuya, I couldn't remember the name of it. Thank you. Um, I would I would prefer to have Kuya in the as the commander. There we go. I would prefer to have Kuya as the commander. And because the other thing is when you've got Kuya as the commander, the backside doubles the damage that you deal. It doubles the damage that wizards deal. Black Waltz number 3 deals 2 damage. That would double to 4. I would rather, and again, this is a me personally thing. I would rather have Kuja in the 99 and Black Waltz as Black Waltz. Sorry, I would rather have Kuja as the commander and Black Waltz number 3 in the 99 because Kuja will pump more of the team. He's going to spit out more tokens. Even if you've already got a couple already out. At the beginning of your end step, he's still going to make another token. And even if you've got 8 already in play, he's going to make a token and then transform. I personally think that's better in the command zone than Black Waltz number 3. Black Waltz number 3 is, it's a good card, but it feels like a better fit, in my opinion, for the 99. As for sure, that being said, you can also, because you're playing red white or red black, you can come up with enough early game wizards to actually get started on that ahead of time. Coruscation Mage, for example, is a red wizard that basically has the same ability already. And that's a 2-mana card. So what you're going to want to be looking for are wizards. The ideal situation is earlier drop wizards that when they trigger, that has some kind of trigger that makes them deal damage. Let's see what I can find here quickly. Burning Prophet gets bigger in scries. I think that might be. I think that's the only wizard I have in this particular deck. Yeah. But it's not unrealistic to be able to find early drop wizards. Rakdos. Mana value less than 3. Electrostatic infantry is similar. It gets bigger instead. Oh, Slickshot Show Off is a wizard. Okay. Dragon Wizard. You are racked. The only mono red dragon wizard I see is the Dragon Mage. And I get the feeling that's not what what you were thinking of. Now, hilariously, if you go Vivi, you do get the various Niv-Mizzets to play with. You could throw all 4 of them into the same deck, which would be absolutely hilarious. Probably not recommended, but it would get kind of silly. For early drops, I would not complain about Burning Prophet, Coruscation Mage, which specifically does what you're looking for. Electrostatic Infantry. I would rather have Burning Prophet over Slickshot, simply due to the fact that this the scry ability is probably going to be a lot more relevant. Fire Spitter Whelp. Yep. I mean, to be fair, in a pinch, and I've said this many times, certain cards for mental shortcuts. You always have the ability of something along the lines of Maskwood Nexus. If you're playing black, you have access to Conspiracy. Which is this thing. Name Wizard. That suddenly makes all your creatures into wizards. And then the blue deck gets Xenographed, which, because relevantly, you're going to care about the creatures that you control that are in play. So as far as that's concerned, Xenographed and Conspiracy do the same thing. They turn all your creatures into wizards. suddenly that allows you to run Fire Spit or Whelp or anything of that nature at all. And then you get that trigger. Yeah. What if I get rid of that? How many cards do we actually end up with? Only 19. Okay. That's not bad. Sort by color. No, 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 no. Daniel, potentially. Mastermind poem, whenever. Whenever he casts a... Not really. Whenever you cast... Not really what you're looking for. Harvester of Storms might actually be helpful. Mysidian Elder turns around and makes another black wizard token. Whenever you cast an instant sorcery or wizard spell, Rock Slide Sorcerer you're going to want, and it is a wizard. Whenever you cast an instant sorcery, Storm Splitter you're probably going to want in that deck as well. Whereas, what if we go with Izzet? You have a lot more options. That brings down 54. Draw cards, draw cards. Proliferate, less useful, I think. Not really interested in that. Because again, what you really want for a deck like... No, you're looking at Vivi. Strawberry System 22. Not off the top of my head, but then again, I mean, I am ancient. I am more than twice as old as the set I'm planning on covering tonight. So, don't be surprised if I don't remember things. Stuff in the ancient, in the game's ancient past? Sure, no problem. What I have for lunch yesterday? Oh! Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, you say that. I remember that now. That, wow. You finished them all already. Like, not just sketching them out or whatever, but actually building them? Like physically building them? Because I remember that was a giant list you were looking at. See, but you've got at least 80% of them actually done. That's huge. 76 decks. 76 that were the original plan, or 76 that you've made? All right. So we're going to skip. Okay. So Cloud Strife is just a reprint, a reflavored print of Najila. Ask Zero, because Zero is the one that's curious about it. Search for an equipment as a. Draw a card for each equipped attacking creature. I find the Naya one is going to be more difficult because you generally don't. The easiest way to build Cloud X Soldier is to build it with cards that have 4 Mirrodin or Living Weapon or Job Select or some similar ability where, here's a token. It comes with a token and is attached to that. Or comes into play and auto attaches to a creature. X Soldier would be the easiest way to build that. Cloud Strife is a reflavor of Dungila, which is just generate a crazy amount of mana and end up with infinite combats. Cloud Planet's champion, its big benefit, realistically, is the fact that it's red-white, which are the two colors that you want for an equipment-based deck. But bypassing the equip cost is easy. Getting Cloud Double Strike and Indestructible is not hard. I probably wouldn't bother. Personal opinion. I personally wouldn't bother with Cloud Planet's Champion. I would rather run, if I'm running something for, if I'm running a Boros equipment deck, I would rather run I would find somebody else. I might toss them in the 99. I would run something else. I would prefer to have Cloud X Soldier as my commander and Planet's Champion in the 99. The last consideration is Cloud Midgard Mercenary. I personally prefer the Mercenary. Although, am I the only one that thinks it's wrong that when they give Cloud the soldier creature type, they didn't capitalize the word soldier in the creature type? I think they could have taken that, gone an extra step for the flavor win there. I personally think Midgard Mercenary is the best version of Cloud as far as being a commander is concerned. You're looking at like half of Stoneforge Mystic, which is usually the half that people the half that people, at least in Commander, are, from my experience anyway. Granted, even though I've been playing a long time, I do not consider myself any kind of expert in any format. But from my experience, I find that it's going to be the searchability that people care about most when it comes to effects like Stoneforge Mystic. So he's got that going on. And then, if an ability of Cloud or an equipment attached to it triggers, that ability triggers an additional time. That's not bad because you attach, what do you call it? I know the card I want. Blue. Cannot remember the name of you at the moment. Right, Sword of Hearth and Home. Sword of Hearth and Home. Flicker two creatures because it'll trigger an additional. Cloud it will trigger an additional time as long as he's equipped. And search for 2 basics. That in of itself, that in of itself will help make up for the fact of, oh, equip abilities cost 2 less to activate. Okay. I think Midgard Mercenary is because all 3 of these are based on equipment. I feel like Cloud Midgard Mercenary is the strongest one. Planet's Champion, in my opinion, is just kind of meh because his abilities can be duplicated so easily. Ex-Soldier is probably the most interesting one. Is he like a 7-drop or something like that? Yeah, it's 7 mana. Whoops. I'm sad. Oh yeah, the mana dorks are all uncommons, aren't they? Um, Lucretia, uncommon. Rasputin was rare. You're uncommon. Yeah, they're all uncommon. Although Sonation and Falconer basically being a living Sol Ring, I think is hilarious. My problem is I never, like, I mean, there's a way to build anything. Let's be honest. You know, when I can build a mono blue ramp deck that feels like a mono green ramp deck, it's just in the wrong color. But it plays like you can find a way. The game's been around long enough. You can find a way to build any concept in any color scheme you want. My problem is I never got far. Like the first of all, the only Final Fantasy I ever played was 7. Like not the remaster, the original one. And I didn't get as far as a lot of people that I played with, or I should say, a lot of people that I knew that played, because up like at a certain point, it'd be like I do not understand how to get past this point. And because I didn't actually grow up with console gaming, and most of the games that I did play, like when I played Warcraft 2, I would play individual missions, but I never played through not the tutorial, the campaigns. I would get to a certain point and then I'd get stuck. I've gotten a lot better at being able to actually finish a game. Titan Quest, for example, at least the what's this anniversary edition, I can actually get through to the end of the game. But most games, I'm like, I'll get to a point where I can't get past it. So as far as what the deck is like from a flavor perspective, flavor, storyline, stuff like that. I'm having to remember back 15, 20 years ago. Um, and B, I didn't get deep. I didn't get far enough into the game to be able to get through enough of the story to absorb a lot of what was going on. So that was. I have no idea how accurate that is. Lucas from Mother 3. I don't know what Mother 3 is. I literally have no idea what Mother 3 is. I think you may have told me about it once, but so probably the biggest problem why it doesn't register on my radar is as far as consoles are concerned, like actual gaming consoles are concerned, I had access to NES and Super NES. And we only had a handful of games at all for either of those. I think on Super NES it was like Street Fighter, Mortal Kombat, and Shadowrun. I barely remember anything for NES at all. All I remember from that was Duck Hunt and Super Mario Brothers. And then apart from whatever I was playing FF7 on, which belonged to somebody who would come over to visit regularly and would bring it with them. A few games on that, and that was it. Yeah, but they didn't the actually was it NES? The Super NES belonged to my older brother, and like I said, he had we really only had like a couple of games for it. We spent more time gaming on PC realistically. So I am. Oh yeah, no, I understand that, and I can appreciate that. But that's also like when I try and talk to some of my friends about about playing Magic, and they're like, I have no clue what you're going on about. They just look at me with like a complete blank expression on their face, going, I what? Unfortunately for me, I really only have like two big things that I really enjoy, and unfortunately, as you might be able to tell, I can talk for hours and hours and hours and hours about them. One could make an argument for three, but realistically, I would say two: Magic the Gathering and Dungeons and Dragons. And beyond that, my primary video game of choice is Titan Quest, which came out in 2006 for, oh no, the Piranha Plant. I know what that is at least. That is something I'll be able to wrap my brain around. Because those have existed since like the Mario Brothers game on the NES that came with that and Duck Hunt. Bristly Bill. Bristly Bill's for like 45-ish? I have a Bristly Bill. I have no use for him. Um, let's see what my LGS says. My god, that's silly. Persian, crop rotation, elvish, mystic, fin, horn health, hardened skills, yep. I'm not saying don't, but is there a reason to specifically run Nature's Claim as opposed to some other card that would have a similar effect? Like, is it literally just the fact that it costs 1 mana? To be fair, the 4 life in Commander is, okay. In a competitive format, Nature's Claim is really good. In a format like Commander, I value, and to be fair, this is me, and I'll be the first to say there's no right or wrong answer. There's what do you prefer? I value flexibility when it comes to stuff like that. So, as an example, Creeping Mold. Yeah, it costs 4 mana, but it can have an artifact or a creature or a land. You know, or nice. Do you have Beast Within in there? Yes, you do. Okay. Okay. Yep. I Let's sort by mana value. Right. The first Atraxas Fall, Gleeful Sabotage, probably Heritage Reclamation. Actually, a Heritage Reclamation? Target card. Yeah, Heritage Reclamation is better than Return to Nature. Wilt. Wear Down. Actually, Wear Down would be really good because you can blow up 2 things. You give somebody a... You give any of the other... You can give somebody a card who's not getting something blown up. Airship Crash would be really good. Broken Wings was going... Yeah, Airship Crash is basically Broken Wings was cycling. Yeah, like anything that would be low enough cost and has more flexibility than just naturalize. I might run Airship Crash as my first disenchant, or as my first naturalize effect, because it can also blow up something else. Rex Sage. Rex Sage is really good. But yeah, again, Nature's Claim in a format. Yeah, I saw that, which is why I mentioned it. In a format like Nature's Claim, that 4 life is not that nowhere near that big a deal. But for effects that do stuff along the lines of naturalize, I would probably start off with Airship Crash. Airship Crash. What was the other one I saw? Airship Crash, Broken Wings, stuff of that nature that have more flexibility than just blowing up an artifact or enchantment. I am completely amused that you're running Desert Twister. That's kind of silly. $541.93. Yeah, probably 90% of that comes from these 2 cards here. Grim Monolith and the One Ring. And yeah, no surprise here. Yeah, your actual deck itself is like $43 for your general, $400 for your green cards. If it wasn't for these 2, this would probably be like 40 or 50 bucks. And if it wasn't for Gaia's Cradle, this might be like 100, whatever the cost of Nexus is, basically. But yeah. Thing is, when you said it, when you're talking about vomiting out force and stuff like that, like I'm expecting, not Zeus, Avenger. Do you have Avenger in here? Yeah, Avenger of Zendikar. I'm expecting more cards along the lines of Avenger of Zendikar in here. What's the one that when one of your creatures dies, it comes into play face down as a forest? What do you call it? Eudora. Oh yeah. If you're wearing something like that, and then you add like life and limb. Oh no, that's dumb. Eudora plus life and limb plus any sort of sack outlet. Life and limb turns all your forest into also being saplings. Something that's face down. It's not a token. So you get infinite number of dice triggers and come into play triggers and landfall triggers. Oh wow. Yeah, you want to spit out a bunch. If you want a little extra silliness to throw into your piranha plant, not saying you should. I'm just saying if you want to. Eudora plus some kind of sack outlet plus life and limb and just go nuts. Nice. Oh no, greater good would be good because greater good gives you a sack outlet. Oh. Yeah, greater good gives you a sack. Oh. You would draw 2, discard 3. Yeah. You'd rather have something like Phyrexian Altar or something like that. Speaking of which, I was trying to figure out what to use for the... Hey, Holly! I was trying to figure out what to use for the thumbnail for when Invasion gets posted on YouTube and such. And I was trying to decide between Phyrexian Altar and Aura Shards. Yeah, true. I'd like to have. I would like to have a second one. Even if it's like, oh, Holly, Strawberry's talking about decks that they built. Um, take Smash Brothers, grab all the fighters in there, and turn around and go, okay, I'm going to make a commander deck for each of you. You, I'm going to interpret as this character that's in Magic. You, I'm going to interpret as this Magic character. And then build a deck for each of those characters that relates somehow back to what they are in Smash Brothers. Yeah, Strawberry said some number over 70. I mean, I thought I was making a lot of decks. Strawberry's making me look bad here. Yeah. So here's a list of decks that unfortunately, as I mentioned, I a lot of these I'm like I I don't have the relevant gaming background to be able to make any to give any actual feedback on most of these decks because I never played any of the games that they came like I see a bunch for that are based on Pokemon. You know yourself. I never I you know yourself. I never got into Pokemon. So, I'm looking at a bunch of these going uh okay, sure. Oh my god, I have somebody popping in my YouTube channel. Yay! Getting strictly with it. Oh my god, they found me in the in my Twitch channel too. Ah! Getting strictly with it. But yeah, like there's there's a bunch of these. I'm like, I never played any of the Mega Man series, and you know, I can give feedback. I can give feedback to Strawberry based on whatever as a deck, but as far as whether or not they suit the character in question, yeah, but I can't. I can't give. Okay, I I feel a bit less bad than that. Oh yeah, I'm. I like going through these old sets and taking a look and going, wait. The only reason people don't play Card X anymore, anywhere, is because people don't realize they don't realize it exists. Like Spirit Weaver, which obviously, the first card that shows up on this particular list. Spirit Weaver, according to this, is the least popular mono white card in Invasion. And I take a look at this and I'm like, you have, if you're playing a Toughness Matters deck, like um, Doran the Siege Tower, this is like giving your creatures fire, giving a creature fire breathing. Doran the Siege Tower, Arcades, Saboth, you know, there's a few. Oh God, there's one called like Prazicon or something like that that have like ability. They all have abilities that are like deal combat damage based on toughness instead of power. Okay, Spirit Weaver would be really good for effects like that. And because it's target, you can pick and choose. Again, because it's target creature, not target creature you control, you can pump an opponent's creature and make combat math messy, save creatures from effects like chain reaction, etc., etc. So I take a look at Spirit Weaver, and I'm like, nah, maybe a 2/2. I could see an argument for a 2/2. I don't think I'd make it a 2/3. A 2/3 to me feels wrong. But Spear Weaver is the kind of card that I could see being played. Why not? The only thing that makes it look weird, in my opinion, is the fact that it's a human wizard. That's the only thing that I see that makes it look weird. But not like hugely weird. And I'm looking at some of these cards, I'm like, why do you not get played? Because people don't realize they exist, and often you want something like Gauntlet of Power, or if you're playing a colorless deck, Forsaken Monument, or something of that nature, to give a global static pump. But an effect like Spear Weaver, where you can put as much or as little as you want into it, that has its own place as well. So, compare that to the next card, Ram Jin, which can very easily be a 6 mana 3/3. A 3/3 with first strike, but still a 6 mana 3/3, and it's like, eh? That one makes sense why people don't play it. So some of this stuff I get, some of this I don't, and some of this. But this is why I also like streaming this stuff, is because it's like I get to cover some of this really old stuff and go, hey, by the way, you're playing what kind of deck? Don't forget this thing exists. But yeah, that's surprise, surprise. That Spirit Weaver taken care of. Ruam Jin. The only way to make sure that Ruam Jin gets played and gets to stay being a 5/5 first strike is to turn around and have something like Painter's Servant in play. No, the complete opposite. You want, Ruam Jin with like Painter's Servant naming green or something. You want to make sure a different color is named. Or, oh look, a lot of people are playing white, but almost nobody is playing, red. Okay, cool. Glamour dye or something of that nature. Change the word white to the word red, and suddenly it's safe. But if you're spending 6 mana and 2 cards on a 5/5 first strike, why? Actually, 7 mana by that point on a 5/5 first strike. You can just as easily get a 5/5 first strike with other abilities thrown on top of it. I wouldn't even play it in. I would not play this in a Jin tribal deck. Even if my name was Jin Jataxis. Womp womp. Orm's Touch, if you're playing a deck based around damage prevention, Orm's Touch is fine. But really, like, I would run Healing Salve instead of Orm's Chant preventing a 4th point of damage is rarely going to be that important. To the point where, you know, spending an extra mana, it's like, it's not worth it. And if I'm building around damage prevention, I'd be starting off with cards like Samite Healer and stuff of that nature first. Spells that prevent damage, look at cards like Scars of the Veteran and stuff that do more than just prevent the damage. You've also got cards like Reverse Damage that will prevent damage and then gain your life. Or there's cards that will prevent damage and then and then shunt it elsewhere. Orm's Chant I don't think is good enough for a deck of that nature. Ardent Soldier, you know what? If this was a 2-1 instead of a 1-2, I would be much happier with this. Much, much, much happier. It's amazing how often I find that sort of comment popping up, at least from myself, where it's like, if the stats were flipped the other way around, it would be so much better. Yeah, exactly. But now imagine if that was the other way around. Imagine if it started as a 2-1 Vigilance for 2 mana, and you could pay an extra 2 to make it a 3-2 Vigilance. Which doesn't sound great, but a 3-2 Vigilance for 4 mana is going to be a lot better than a 2-3 Vigilance. Even though stats work out basically the same, that extra point of power means a lot more than that extra point of toughness. It means you can kill more things more often. I could have sworn I did the thing. Of course he's making his way over now. Damn it. That is notifications. Somebody's decided they're coming over now. I started streaming a little over an hour ago. Hopefully there's somebody available to, you know, make sure they can get in and whatever. Wayfaring Giant. It is not hard. What's up, Strigley? Wayfaring Giant is okay. Well, you can pull it up in chat, like exclamation mark followed by the card name, and the bot should be able to pull it up. There are. Oh, yes. Dreams of the Dead. I have ideas for that card. You have to play at least Azorius or Dimir. I would go Azorius. Okay. The reason for that is Azorius gives you white. Blue and white give you a lot of options for flickering, i.e., exile this creature, return it back to the battlefield, you know, immediately, the end of turn, whatever. Dreams of the Dead is a pumpable blue reanimation card. So you find stuff like Acroma, Angel of Wrath, or uh, or some of your giant ocean beasts, or whatever. You find ways like Sift or Thirst for Knowledge or whatever to get it from your, probably from your hand into your graveyard. Because getting it from your library to your graveyard is harder, but getting it from your library to your hand and then from your hand to the graveyard is relatively easy. And just have, like, there's even colorless creatures. No. Well, you could go self mill. You don't have to go that deep, but you can. And use Dreams of the Dead and certain other cards to bring to bring creatures back from your graveyard to the battlefield. Then use an effect like Restoration Angel, or something of that nature. Or you can use effects like, just say, Heart of Oceans to eat the age counter so you don't have to worry about paying the upkeep cost. Or you can run Solemnity to say that counters can't be put on your creatures, which includes age counters, so you never have to worry about paying a cumulative upkeep. And keep in mind, this card does not say anything about activate only as a sorcery. So you can turn around, cool, I attack you with this, this, and this. Alright, for 2 mana, I'll reanimate this. For 2 mana, I'll reanimate this. And for 2 mana, I'll reanimate this. Deal with these deal with these big blockers that I've got now. Oh, crap. And if you've got Solemnity in play, cool, on your upkeep, it's like, that's nice. You're playing blue and white. You can run Yorion in your 99 and flicker them and bring them back later. Yeah, there are ways to make it work. Dreams of the Dead. Let me pull it up on here. Dreams of the Dead is one of those cards that I have not just this, but I have a bunch of deck ideas that constantly go through my head. And one of the decks I want to build, I have a mono blue ramp deck that, according to one of the people that work at one of my LGSs, it identifies as a green deck. I want to build another mono blue deck that doesn't act like a green deck, or that doesn't act like a blue deck. Narwhal is basically Silver Knight in blue. Yes, it's 2 extra mana, but first of all, it's a blue creature with First Strike, which is an ability that only exists on maybe a dozen cards in blue, and protection from red, which I think is about as common as First Strike. if I was to go blue plus something and play Dreams of the Dead, because Dreams of the Dead is definitely a card that doesn't fit in what blue is known for doing. I add white or I add black, I run Dreams of the Dead because suddenly I have reanimation. If you're doing that, also look into False Demise, which, you know, the black instants that are like, you know, whenever target creature dies, return it to the battlefield under its owner's control. Or target creature gains persist till end of turn, etc., etc. False Demise is basically that as an enchant creature. And then there's Fool's Demise, which does the same thing, but when the aura leaves play, you get it back to hand as well. So you get the creature and the aura back. So you could actually sneak in a couple of blue reanimation cards. Also, there is Argivian Restoration. If your targets happen to also be artifacts, you can use Argivian Restoration to also bring it back from the graveyard to play. Basically zombify an artifact. You can have a starting point of, I have some ability to do reanimation in blue. ID equal U FT1 FEDH O graveyard to the battlefield. Advanced Stitchwing can return itself. Garrul's Masterpiece can return itself. Smoke Shroud comes into play if you've got a ninja. Stitchwing Scab can return itself. Hakim Loreweaver can bring auras back. Is that the one I think it is? Metamorphosis I didn't like. Oh, this? Yeah. What the best kind of card, in my opinion, to do this on is a card that you can cast for cheaper than it says at first. So, Hooting Mandrills, as an example, is a 6-mana 4/4 trample, but it has Delve. You get rid of excess cards in your graveyard. You can drop this into play for 1 mana. But it has a mana value of 6. Well, then you metamorphosis it, and now you can play a 7-drop. There's going to be better cards than Hooting Mandrills for this context. Actually, that's just sacrifice a creature. Tolarian Terror. Costs 1 less to cast for each instant and sorcery in your graveyard. You can cast this for 1 mana. Son of a biscuit. Hold on a minute. Alright, I'm back. Friend of mine, I went out and. Okay. A friend of mine that used to live in this general area moved to the other side of the pond and is back over here currently visiting. He and I went out to visit another friend for a couple of hours. And the one who's visiting had a battery bank with him, to keep his cell phone charged and everything else. And had taken it with him and left it behind at my other friend's place. I'm like, okay, well, I start streaming at 6 o'clock. I'm going to be going till usually somewhere around midnight. It is like almost 7:30, and he's like, I'm going to come over and bring it to you guys now. I'm like, you realize I'm streaming at this point? Oh. But we had dinner late. I'm like, yeah, you could have brought it over like later or something. Because he's going to be up till like, yeah, exactly. He's going to be up until past 11 o'clock. Exactly. So, is this work? No, that doesn't work. Damn it. Oh well. Anywho. But no, what I was saying was Tellurian Terror. Just have enough instants and sorceries in your graveyard somehow. Have it as a